Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We're going to give it just 1 minute and let some folks hop into the room, and we'll get started momentarily. All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for a part of our Getting Back on Track Help is Here series hosted by the U.S. Small Business Administration and the Public-Private Strategies Institute. Before we begin, just a little bit of housekeeping. Just to note that the U.S. Small Business Administration does not endorse Public-Private Strategies Institute. If you've got a question, please feel free to type it into the Q&A or chat box during the Q&A session. This session is being live streamed and recorded, and a copy will be shared with everyone after the session. It's also live on the Public-Private Strategies Institute Facebook page and the SBA's Facebook page. One note is please do not share any personal information in the chat. All right, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Rhett Buttle.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. A few weeks ago, Public-Private Strategies Institute was thrilled to partner with the U.S. Small Business Administration to launch a series of tours around the country to make sure that our small businesses get back on track. We know what an important part of the economy you are, and all of us from all the organizations you're going to hear from today, from all the chamber leaders, we are working so hard to make sure that you have all the tools you need to get your businesses back, to bring your employees back, to get our economy going. And today we're having a special conversation. We're so thrilled to be joined by a member of the White House vaccine team. We're so thrilled to be joined by our SBA administrator to continue that conversation to make sure that you have everything you need. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. We're very excited about today's program. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn the conversation over to the White House vaccine coordinator, Dr. Choucair. Dr. Choucair, take it away.
Thank you so much, Rhett. It's such an honor to be with you here. So I'd like to spend a few moments here to just do a quick overview of where we are with our national vaccination program, and then just talk a little bit about the role that small businesses have played and continue to play in that effort. So let me just first start by giving a quick overview of our overall progress. We have hit several major milestones. Every person 12 years old and up is now eligible for vaccinations everywhere in the country. 90% of people now have a vaccine site within 5 miles of where they live. And as of today, more than 305 million doses of vaccines have been administered. Every time I say this number, I have to pause for a moment and just show my gratitude for how this country came together to get us to a point where in such a short period of time, we've had more than 305 million doses of vaccine administered. More than 172 million people in this country have gotten at least one dose, and 140 million people are fully vaccinated. When you look at adults, now almost 64% of adults in this country have gotten at least one shot, including 86% of seniors. This is significant progress, and it's something that we should be so proud of. However, we still have a large number of people who are not vaccinated yet, and this would going to require all of us to work even harder and accelerate our efforts to reach underserved populations. So we have already reached those who are most eager to get vaccinated or to whom the vaccine was most accessible. Now, to reach the remainder of us, it's going to be more arduous, it's going to be harder, and we're going to need to redouble our efforts to improve access and outreach and go at it community by community, zip code by zip code, census tract by census tract. So several weeks ago, the president set a new goal for us for this next phase of the vaccination efforts, and that's to get 70% of adults in this country with at least one shot and 160 million people fully vaccinated by July 4th. And for us to be able to meet that goal, we've been thinking about strategies and activating and executing on strategies along 3 key areas. One, we wanted to make sure that the vaccine access is easier and more convenient. 2, we wanted to continue to build on vaccine confidence. And 3, we wanted to continue to keep equity at the center of our work. And that's been really driving our strategy and our execution for the last several weeks to get us into the 4th of July. And last week, you might have heard that the president announced a month of action to help us reach this goal. And he called on community leaders, faith partners, businesses, celebrities, athletes, colleges, universities, and thousands of volunteers across the country to participate in this nationwide campaign. And as part of this month of action, we're making it even easier to get vaccinated. Childcare providers are watching kids for free while parents are getting the shot. Vaccines at barbershops, beauty salons, at baseball games, NASCAR races, pharmacies with extended hours. We're literally doing everything we can, pulling all the stops here, leading canvassing, phone banking, texting into areas with low vaccination rates, including rural areas, coordinating vaccine events across the country with more than 100 organizations committed to host over 1,000 events just in the first weekend alone. And as you might have heard, the vice president is leading a tour to key communities across the South and the Midwest. More than 50 mayors across the country are competing to boost vaccination rates in their cities. More than 300 colleges and universities are taking the pledge to vaccinate as many of their students, their staff, and their communities. And many businesses are stepping up and offering incentives. So turning to small businesses will continue to have an important role to play in this effort. First, you all can play a meaningful role in making the vaccine more accessible through on-site clinics. So I strongly encourage you to partner with nearby community health centers, hospital, pharmacies, or other providers to host clinics for your employees, your customers, your communities. So that's one opportunity. Second, we've seen incentives for employees, customers, and communities have a real impact. So for employees, paid time off to get a vaccine and recover from any side effect. For customers and communities, special deals, prizes, promotions for those who get vaccinated. And I know many of you are already doing these things, so we strongly encourage you to expand these efforts. And then third, on education and vaccine confidence, employers, small businesses are trusted members of the community. You all are such trusted members, and you'd want to make sure to engage with your employees and your communities about why it is important to get vaccinated. So we're launching new tools, and we'd ask you to direct employees and communities to texting to 438829, your zip code. You can get 3 locations where you can get vaccinated, offering and encouraging people to go to vaccines.gov to find sites, get more information, visiting wecandothis.hhs.gov to join our community core, where you can get lots of information and help us spread the word about the importance of vaccination. So it's a lot of work that can be done. We depend on you. We are looking forward to continuing to work with you. So thank you for the opportunity to ask me to speak with you today. We have a lot of work ahead of us. And with that, I'll turn it over to Administrator Guzman.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Choucair. It's been great to see your work at the White House as the Vaccinations Coordinator, and also for your leadership previously in the private sector with Kaiser Permanente, who we know is such a strong supporter of small businesses. You know, the SBA really looks forward to continuing to partner with you and everyone who's on this initiative as we work toward President Biden's goal of declaring independence from COVID-19 by July 4th. It's definitely something that we want to achieve as we're trying to create marketplaces that can resume business for our small businesses. And it's great to be here again with so many friends on SBA's Getting Back on Track, Help Is Here webinar series. As always, just a huge thank you to the team at Public-Private Strategies Institute for helping us put these webinars together and really reaching communities in a new way. It's incredible to be able to tap into your networks as well as the partners on the call. And I am truly grateful to all of you who have joined us online today. And this week, we're honored to welcome representatives from the nation's leading small business organizations and diversity chambers, including National ACE, the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, U.S. Black Chambers, National LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce, and as well as Reimagine Main Street. These leaders, these partners have really been critical in SBA's outreach and our successful implementation and programs. As we focus on the much needed relief to our nation's small businesses, The continued collaboration that we have with all of you is really critical to achieving our vision of creating equitable small business ecosystems and an economy that really works for everyone. And I said this at our kickoff Getting Back on Track webinar, but my top priority as the voice for America's 30 million small businesses and innovative startups is to break down some of those historic barriers to capital markets and networks that have stood in the way of women, people of color, and other underserved entrepreneurs for really far too long, and especially noticeable during COVID and the resulting economic crisis. We really need to bridge the gaps to support all of our nation's small businesses more effectively and build trust back to make sure that everyone knows that the SBA is here to help them and provide services that meet them where they're at. The team at SBA has been working diligently. I say this all the time, but they are truly committed. They're committed to being as entrepreneurial as small businesses we serve, as I've asked them to be agile, really prioritizing customer-centric, technology-forward, and equitable approaches as we design and implement our COVID relief program. And because we know how hard this disaster has been on so many of our small businesses, especially the hardest hit small businesses, the smallest of the small, and those owned by women and people of color who were left out of early rounds of relief with limited access. And so I know I have a couple of my team members here today, Deirdre Henry Spires, as well as Alejandro Contreras, who are joining to dive into some details of some of our COVID relief programs. And I am really proud about some of those relief programs and the ability that we've had to target them towards communities in need. In 2021, 96% of PPP loans went to small businesses with 20 employees or less, and 32% of our PPP loans went to businesses located in low and moderate income or LMI communities. And the $28.6 billion Restaurant Revitalization Fund, which many of you helped us as we rolled it out to make sure that we were reaching so many. More than a third of the applicants, the 362,000 applicants, came from our smallest businesses, and more than half came from women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged business owners who were given priority access to the program by Congress as directed in the American Rescue Plan. And we know that more relief is needed beyond PPP and the Restaurant Fund. And we're continuing to offer EIDL, which is our Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, which is low-cost, long-term debt with deferred payments into 2022. And that COVID Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, as well as the grants associated with it, with the targeted EIDL Advance and supplemental targeted EIDL Advance for our low-income, highly impacted businesses, are a great pathway to help businesses survive this time and hopefully build up to recovery. EIDL program is less known than the PPP perhaps, but we have some presentation a little bit later to go over some of the details. And one of the things I did want to highlight that we recognize that this recovery is going to be a long haul as well. It's some anticipating about 6 months, some of the businesses surveyed. We have increased the EIDL limit from 150,000 to 500,000 and lengthened the time of economic injury from 6 months to 24 months. We really want to use this as a strong economic recovery tool for our small businesses. It's working capital to get them to the other side of this crisis. EIDL loans, have become incredibly crucial to so many small businesses as they pivoted and adapted in this new marketplace throughout the pandemic. And we know that so far we've distributed 4 times the number of EIDL loans than the top 15 PPP program lenders combined. So it is still an access program that many have been able to take advantage of, and we look forward to partnering with you to continue to try to spread the awareness of the program as well as its associated advanced grants. And I know that there's a great need for that assistance, and we're looking at the program and how we can make improvements so that we can better get these funds out to small businesses who truly need them. And I know that one of the big things is that we need to connect with small businesses who were left out of previous relief. And so everyone's help to achieve that and spread the word is really important. Bottom line is we just want people to know that the SBA is here to help navigate government resources through our field offices and our local partners, the Small Business Development Centers, Women's Business Centers, the Veterans Business Opportunity Centers, and then coming soon through our Community Navigators pilot program, in which we will partner with trusted organizations and community champions who have direct access and connection to the small business owners who need us, but maybe don't know how to find us or don't have that bridge built yet. Our teams and partners are also here to help these small businesses pivot and develop strategies for increased revenues, which beyond the relief and the capital access, we know that market access is so important. And that's what the SBA is, not just about capital, but also about market access. And the federal marketplace is a key opportunity for small business growth. The federal government is the world's largest buyer, and we want our small businesses to be contract ready and help underserved entrepreneurs compete. And so I'm pleased to share, I'm sure many of you have already heard, but President Biden recently announced on the centennial of the Tulsa Race Massacre an all-of-government effort to grow federal contracting with small disadvantaged businesses by 50%, which translates to an additional $100 billion over 5 years. And I want to share that SBA is committed to helping deliver that and work with you all to make that happen. In addition to that, we also want to help our innovative entrepreneurs and startups of tomorrow gain access to the funds and resources they need to scale up today. So we're continuing to work on our Small Business Innovation Research Fund, which is called the America Seed Fund, because together with the university-based Small Business Technology Transfer Program, those sources represent the largest source of early stage public finance, globally. And so SBI is such a critical program as we look towards seeding the future of entrepreneurship, and we look forward to partnering with you all to help move ideas from the lab to the marketplace, which America Seed Fund is so committed to doing. Along with our Growth Accelerator Fund competition, which we just recently launched, and which supports a network of incubators and accelerators around the country that can really help connect locally to small businesses and help them scale their innovative startups. The bottom line is that we know that many businesses are still struggling, and the SBA wants every entrepreneur out there, through our great partners who are also on this call, to make sure that they know that we're here to help them with a way forward to recover and build back better from this pandemic. We want them to know that they can count on us for support, and that we are evolving, adapting, and pivoting just as they have, so that we can make sure our programs are more accessible and meet them where they're at. While our COVID relief programs have helped millions stay afloat, we are planning on ensuring our core SBA programs offer a strong road to recovery long term. And we need our marketplaces, from main streets to industrial to corporate centers, to recover, which is why it's so important that we get the virus in retreat. And so thankful for Dr. Choucair for his work. We are making progress, as he's mentioned, outlined in numbers, and with the doses of COVID-19 vaccine administered, and our goal marching along towards 70%, a reality in the horizon. And along those lines, we want our small business leaders to be empowered with resources to participate and help us advance the number of vaccines that are distributed out there, the shots in arms, because all those numbers can add up to a return to normalcy in our marketplaces for small businesses. And so that they can, small businesses, in order for them to open their doors, we need to get those vaccination numbers up. It's so critical for future revenues and resiliency of our businesses. So during this month of action, the federal government is working hard to address the structural barriers that are keeping people from accessing the vaccines, and we hope that you can all join us in helping to spread the word. And also let businesses know, and for those businesses on the line, that you can give your workers time off to get a vaccine, as President Biden announced a tax credit to fully reimburse small businesses that provide paid time off for vaccination, as well as recovery from any side effects. President Biden called on every small business employer in the country to use it. We know that you employ half the private workforce and have such a big impact in the decisions that you make locally. And I hope that with that incentive, that it can help finance more vaccinations to get distributed across the nation, and get both our clients coming back into our businesses and our businesses returning to normalcy, and especially as we help strengthen the care economy and education, so that our workers can get back to work within our small businesses as well. If every small business has the resources they need to help their employees get vaccinated, then I think we will be much closer to beating this virus. So please reach out to us if you need assistance in trying to navigate that process of getting your paid leave reimbursed. Our field offices and everyone's trained to try to support you all so that our main streets can come alive and our makers can start making again and bringing our small businesses, the engine of our economy, roaring back. Until we get to that new normal, though, we need to make sure that we're reaching every entrepreneur who needs our help. If we're going to bring our economy back, we've got to bring our small businesses back. I know that that's a huge push, and I look forward to partnering with all of you to connect to our entrepreneurs, connect all of our entrepreneurs to our COVID relief programs. So pleased that my staff is here to dive into some more details of how we can help them along that journey of surviving and thriving beyond COVID. So with that, I'll pass it back. I think we have some Q&A and look forward to talking a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Administrator. We really appreciate that. And you gave a lot of great information. We know that many small businesses are potentially eligible for EIDL, and you talked a lot about it, and more specifically for EIDL Target Advance and Supplemental Targeted Advance. It can be a complex program to understand. How can our national small business organizations who are trusted local leaders help you and the SBA raise awareness about these programs?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I've heard from businesses, what do I do now? PPP is out, RRF is, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund is no longer available. What other resources do I have at hand? And we still have our COVID EIDL, economic injury disaster loans that are available for individuals. And the reason I'm leaning into them is that they are a very affordable way to get back and through COVID with very low interest, long-term debt, again, payments deferred through 2022. And it's a great opportunity for businesses to get capital infused in their businesses and be able to survive this time. In addition, for those who have previously applied and also applied for the EIDL Advance, Congress provided extra money through the Targeted EIDL Advance and Supplemental Targeted EIDL Advance program to up that amount that they received to $10,000, which was originally intended. And so the SBA has already sent out over 14 million emails directly contacting individuals who are eligible or could be eligible rather for this program so that they can apply directly. And our next stage will be opening it up more broadly as we build a platform for businesses to directly apply for EIDL as well as apply for that advance. They are tied together.
Thank you so much, Administrator. We are going to actually now move into our listening session, and we are going to ask all of our amazing chamber leaders and Dr. Choucair if they will be able to turn on their cameras, as we would love to kick it off and start. I would love to turn it over to Shi-Ling Tong, President and CEO of National ACE first.
Thank you so much. The National ACE, called National Asian Pacific Islander American Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship, we represent about 2.2 million AAPI small business owners who employ over 3.6 million people across the country. Thank you, Administrator Guzman, and for your leadership and hard work of SBA team. National ACE remains a committed partner in supporting the SBA and also its effort to help small business recover, either through the use of the PPP, EIDL, Restaurant Revitalization Fund. It's through this initiative that the SBA has lifted and support business owner, especially business owner of color. Now we're really looking forward to SBA Navigated program. Dr. Choucair, thank you so much for your special remarks. An overwhelming number of AAPI business owners see the importance of the vaccine to fully reopening. A recent survey found that 90% of AAPI small business employers plan to take the COVID-19 vaccine when it becomes available, and 80% say it is very important for employees to get vaccinated. In addition, 78% said they are very likely to encourage their workers to get vaccinated. Another study by APH Research Lab has found out AAPIs are getting vaccinated at a higher rate than other demographic, with 54% of AAPIs vaccinated as of May 2021. This is all great news to get our economic back on track as AAPI own business have experienced negative long-term impact due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you again for your leadership.
Thank you, Sheiling. Next, we will have Tammy Halevi, co-lead of Reimagine Main Street.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for inviting us to this conversation. As Renee said, I'm Tammy Halevi, and I co-lead Reimagine Main Street. We're a cross-sector, multi-stakeholder network focused on ensuring equitable recovery from COVID-19 for Main Street business owners and the people who work for them. In March of this year, in partnership with the National Chambers who are on this call, we surveyed more than 3,300 small employers, including really robust samples of AAPI, Black, Latino, Native, and white business owners to better understand how they were thinking about vaccines. The full results of our survey are available on the website, reimaginemainstreet.org. But in a nutshell, we found that the majority of small business owners across race and ethnicity think vaccines are critical to getting back to business. And as Sheiling noted, their workers are turning to them with questions. Business owners told us that they wanted information from trusted sources and were willing to take a range of actions to get their customers and their workers vaccinated to get back to business. In response to what we learned, we launched a national campaign for small businesses to use their trusted positions with their employees and in their communities to promote vaccination. This includes a small business vaccine leader pledge that more than 500 business owners took at launch. Our Vaccine Resource Center includes content in 5 languages, and we've hosted a series of webinars for business owners and ecosystem providers. We're now working with small employers and others to address remaining needs and gaps so that Main Street can really get back to business. We thank you for having us, and we thank you for all of your hard work.
Thank you, Tammy. Next, we have President and CEO of Ushcc, Romero Cavazos.
Thank you so much, Renee. Well, it's an honor to be here with such a distinguished group of attendees. I want to thank, of course, our administrator, Guzman, for her leadership. Dr. Choucair, thank you for your words about the state of where we are. There's no question that small businesses are big business. And over this last year, the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, led by our board of directors, our chairwoman, Alice Rodriguez, our 5 million Hispanic-owned businesses and our more than 260 Hispanic chambers of commerce have created the new energy that we need to take this pandemic and turn it around into a positive. And so when you have an administration that is meeting us where we are, as the administrator said, in whatever language we need, whatever geographical location we may be in, regardless of ethnicity or economic standing, our goal is to make sure that that American dream, the spirit of free enterprise, is achieved, and the resources to provide capital, capacity building, and of course, the contracting, the connections. The government is the largest business in the world, so are Fortune 1000 firms. But just in conclusion, we're very honored to partner with each of you, with our fellow chambers who represent the future of this country, the new mainstream. And last but not least, I'm very just interested in making sure that as we grow the economy, that we take that innovation that we found during the pandemic, and that'll give us even more tenacity as the 30 million small businesses drive forward to create and sustain the largest economy in the world. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Romero. Next, we have President and CEO of USBC, Ron Busby.
Thank you so much, Renee, and thank you to both the White House as well as the SBA for allowing us to participate in this afternoon's conversation. The U.S. Black Chamber, as I have had the opportunity for the last 12 years to be the president, represents 149 Black chambers located in 42 states with a membership base of over 385,000 Black-owned businesses. Over the last several months, the U.S. Black Chamber has partnered with the Biden administration to support the vaccination of Black business owners as well as of the communities in which they represent. We are pleased to support the President Biden's push to ensure that 70% of all American adults are at least partially vaccinated ahead of the 4th of July holiday weekend. While recent CDC data shows that vaccination rates for Black Americans is definitely trending in the right direction, we must do more to achieve pre-pandemic safety. The U.S. Black Chamber believes that the FDA-approved COVID vaccines are not only safe, but are extremely effective in combating critical illnesses and death in our communities. As the national voice for Black businesses, we believe that more people are vaccinated, the faster we can rebound from the economic shock and begin the long recovery road ahead. The U.S. Black Chamber is committed to continuing our work with the Biden-Harris administration to get more Black Americans vaccinated and eliminate the systemic barriers that prevent such from happening. This includes continuing our partnership with our partners such as Uber and Lyft to provide free rides to and from the vaccination sites for Black business owners, as well as their employees, and as well as we worked with CVS Pharmacy, Walgreens, and our good friends at Reimagine Main Street to amplify the vaccine effectiveness and safety throughout Black America. As we've all heard over the last 5 years, to make America great again, you must have great Black businesses. And in order for there to be great Black businesses, you need Black chambers. And so the U.S. Black Chamber is excited about the partnerships that we have with both the SBA as well as the White House, and we will continue our efforts to make sure that America is opening again safely and effectively. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ron. And now we have Sabrina Kent, Senior Vice President of NGLCC.
Thanks, Renee, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Sabrina Kent. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Senior Vice President overseeing supplier diversity and programs at the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce. As the business voice of the LGBT community, which I'll take this opportunity to remind you also includes women, persons of color, folks with disabilities, veterans, and many others, we represent the estimated 1.4 million LGBT business owners in the US. And we take our role in keeping our businesses and our communities safe throughout the pandemic, both financially and medically seriously. By coordinating webinars and info sessions with our partners at the SBA, PPSI, and our 50+ affiliate LGBT chambers of commerce around the country, our partners in the National Business Inclusion Consortium, many of whom you heard from today, as well as countless others, we have been able to share essential resources, grants, and services like EIDLs. We've also been able to utilize technology to spread vaccination, office safety, and remote work guidelines and protocols. Despite the challenges of the last 15 months, many of our business stakeholders thrived by taking advantage of NGLCC's wide network of connections and virtual programming, like online matchmakers, mentorship calls, and more. Additionally, NGLCC's partners in the NBIC have sent every member of Congress and relevant federal agencies a series of practical policy recommendations designed to help every diverse community's businesses come out of COVID stronger, healthier, and ready for more opportunity. As our survey data with CNBC just released this week reveals, nearly 80% of LGBTQ small business owners expect to make a full recovery in 2022. But there's still considerable unease about hiring, funding, and access to both capital and contracts as LGBT business owners. We're happy to share that survey data with you and to help you inform your outcomes better this year. I'll drop the link in the chat after this. And we hope to work with each of you here and your networks to ensure every member of the LGBT community has access to the American dream at Pride and always. Thank you.
Renee, I want to take just a moment to thank everybody for having me here and all these wonderful commitments. We're all literally rolling up our sleeves and in a sprint to get to the 4th of July. The more people we get vaccinated, the closer to 70% we get, the more likely we're going to be able to get back to a sense of normalcy. And we feel confident that as we get closer and closer to 70% of adults with at least one dose of the vaccine, we're going to continue to see steeper declines in new cases, new hospitalization, and new deaths, and that would be our path to getting back to normal. So thank you so much for having me here. Unfortunately, I do have to drop off, but I really appreciated all the feedback and the commitment. And if there is anything I personally can do, or our team at the White House can do, you all know how to get a hold of us. So thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you, Dr. Choucair. We appreciate you. And thank you to all of our chamber leaders and organization heads for being a part of this listening session. I'd like to now turn it over to Deidre Henry-Spies, SBA Senior Advisor on COVID-19 response.
Thank you so much, Renee. I really appreciate being here. It has been incredibly inspiring. The amount of talent that has been on this call is just indicative of the talent that is found in our small business community. Thank you to Dr. Choucair, but I save the biggest thanks for the woman I have the pleasure of working with and serving in her role as the administrator of the Small Business Administration, and that is Administrator Guzman. So I am the advisor on COVID programs and our response programs. It is my delight to be here as her senior advisor. I get to work hand in hand with our entire team as we look at ways to respond to what has been an event of our lifetimes. But we're coming out of it, and we're coming out of it together, and we're coming out of it stronger. You know that SBA is doing everything we can to get economic relief out to our business owners as quickly as possible. This agency, like all small businesses, has had to surge and adapt during this time, and things will never be the same. We have formed relationships with business types that we've never been in relationship with before. But you know how this is. Once you're family, you're family. So our family has gotten bigger. Two programs that are still taking applications that I have the pleasure of working on are the Shuttered Venues and Operators Grant, SVOG, and EIDL, including Targeted EIDL, Targeted EIDL Advance, and Supplemental Targeted Advance. These programs are meant to get emergency relief to our smallest, hardest hit businesses, those that were hit hardest and have been hit the longest between the two of them. I am so pleased and proud to be working with stakeholder groups that are here today, and appreciate your commitment and their commitment to helping us reach out to our small business owner community and get them the remaining aid that they are eligible for. So to that end, particularly EIDL, Targeted EIDL Advance, and Supplemental Targeted Advance represent some real opportunities for small businesses to get much needed relief. And we really want to push this message. There is money to be had to help. There are grant programs to be had that are different than loans to be had that can help you. We are so excited to meet this challenge for our small business owners head on, and we're pleased to work with a group of subject matter experts from the Office of Disaster Assistance. It's my great pleasure and honor to work with I'd like to thank a friend in Alejandro Contreras. I call him Alex, but he is an expert on these two programs, well, three, EIDL, Targeted EIDL Advance, and Supplemental Targeted Advance. I leave you in his very good, able, and capable hands. Thank you. Alex, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you very much, Deidre, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here with you. If we could go to the next slide, I want to make sure we save plenty of time at the end for questions about some very important programs that are still available to small businesses. I'd like to first start off by just kind of putting this in context. You know, there was a recent survey that came out, was published in the ABA Banking Journal, but 9 in 10 firms have sought some type of emergency funding. 82% of those surveyed sought a Paycheck Protection Program loan. 47% of them surveyed sought an economic injury disaster loan, which is a direct loan through the SBA. And 35% sought an EIDL advance or grant. And just a heads up, anytime you hear me refer to an advance, think of it as a grant. It's an advance on the EIDL loan that does not have to be repaid, and we can award it regardless if you qualify for the loan or not. So that's why we refer to it as a grant. So Congress in response to COVID, passed several laws, including the most recent American Rescue Plan Act, which brought a lot of relief programs and additional funding. Also last year, there was the CARES Act. And these programs have brought a great deal of financial relief to small businesses. And they also have made some major changes to existing programs that the SBA already had. If we can go to the next slide. So the ones I'm going to focus on are the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the Targeted EIDL Advance, which again, remember, is like a grant, and the Supplemental Targeted Advance. So this is within the EIDL program, there's a component that is a loan, and there's components that are advances or grants. Next slide, please. So in response to COVID, small business owners, including agricultural businesses and nonprofits in every state, U.S. territory, and the District of Columbia can apply for an economic injury disaster loan. They're designed to help meet financial obligations and operating expenses that could have been met had the disaster not occurred. As the administrator mentioned earlier, within days of being sworn in, she made a really important policy decision and increased the loan limit on those loans, raising it from 6 months of working capital to 24 months of working capital and a maximum of $150,000 up to $500,000. So what that means for a business is rather than getting just 6 months of working capital, they can now get 2 years up to a maximum of 500. There's also a statutory limit on the EIDL program of $2 million for loans. The administrator is committed to us increasing the loan limit up to the full $2 million as quickly as possible. So we're working on doing that. And we hope to have an announcement soon on when businesses that have 24 months of working capital that exceeds $500,000 could then get the remaining amount up to the statutory limit of $2 million. The terms of this loan are very good. For for-profit businesses, the interest rate is 3.75%. For nonprofits, it's 2.75%. It's a fixed interest rate. The term is 30 years, which helps keep the payments very low. And there is no prepayment penalty. There's no fee for applying for the loan. And there is right now an 18-month deferment on the first payment due date if you do take a loan. As again, the money is for emergency working capital for normal operating expenses. And for the EIDL loan, it is a loan, so it does have to be repaid. It's not forgivable. And just so you know, because I've seen some of the questions already, SBA does not have statutory authority to forgive EIDL loans. However, the Targeted EIDL Advance and the Supplemental Targeted Advance components of the EIDL program are treated as grants because they do not have to be repaid. Next slide, please. So it is June. We're in the start of hurricane season, so I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention the very important disaster assistance mission that SBA has. Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program is a loan program that has been around for a very long time. It's typically used when there is a disaster declaration for a natural disaster, such as a hurricane, flood, wildfire, tornado, earthquake, something like that. And so it's the same type of loan, but those legislative actions I mentioned earlier made some important changes to help expand the amount of assistance that we could use the EIDL program for. I won't spend a lot of time on this slide, but I felt it was important to share with everybody, just so they know that the EIDL program is something that you might also hear if you happen to be in an area that is declared for another type of disaster. We tend to differentiate between the two by calling one the COVID EIDL program, and all of the others would just go by their regular name, in this case, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan for working capital. There is also physical disaster loans for homeowners and businesses, which we're not going to cover today, but I wanted to at least give you guys some important information about the natural disaster side. Next slide, please. So This is where I want to spend a little bit more time talking about, because as you heard the other speakers say, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity available right now to small businesses, in particular for the targeted EIDL advance and the supplemental targeted advance. So last year, as a result of the CARES Act, there was an EIDL advance program, which provided up to $10,000 to businesses that applied for the EIDL loan. That program exhausted all of the funds in early July 2020. Then in the December COVID relief bill, they created the targeted EIDL advance, which provides $10,000. If you received an advance last year, you get the difference. If you didn't receive an advance last year at all, then you can get the full $10,000. But you have to be in a low-income community, and you have to have greater than 30% economic loss for 2 months compared in 2020 compared to the previous year. Even though it's an advance and a grant, you still have to apply for the EIDL loan. So the most important first step for anybody who wants to potentially receive the targeted EIDL advance of $10,000 is to first apply for the loan. At the bottom of this screen, in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see sba.gov/targeted advance. You can go to that webpage. There is a lot of detailed information about the targeted EIDL advance program and the supplemental targeted advance. But the most important piece of information on there, I think, for businesses who haven't applied for EIDL assistance yet, is a mapping tool, which will tell you once you enter in your business address, whether or not you are in a low-income community. And it's based on the most recent US Census tract data. So I think most businesses probably are not even aware if they are in a low-income community or they are not. I'm always a little bit surprised when I go in and look at the business addresses in there, because it's based on census tract data and different calculations and formulas. It's not always so clear, you know, in just what you may know about your own community, whether or not you meet that qualification. But use that mapping tool, see if you are in a qualified area. If you are, then you stand a very good chance of being able to qualify for the $10,000 targeted EIDL advance. Now, in the American Rescue Plan Act, they also created the supplemental targeted advance, which provides an additional $5,000 on top of the $10,000 for the targeted, if you are in a low-income community, suffered greater than 50% economic loss, and have 10 or fewer employees. So that means businesses who haven't applied for EIDL assistance at all yet, who are in a low-income community, could potentially get up to a total of $15,000 in advance grant money. Now, I mentioned you have to apply for the loan in order to start this process. But even if you don't qualify for the loan, you could still receive the advance grant. If you do qualify for the loan and decide you don't want to take it, you could still receive the advance grant. Getting the advance grant isn't dependent on whether or not you are approved for the loan or whether or not you accept it. But applying for that loan is the very first step. So I just wanted to make sure everybody's very clear. Please go to sba.gov/targeted advance. Use that mapping tool to see if your business or businesses that you work with or businesses in your community are in a qualified low-income community area. And if they are, please encourage them to apply for the EIDL loan. They can reach the application page again by going to sba.gov/targeted advance. Just scroll up to the top of the page and you'll see the links to apply. Next slide, please. I think we'll go to questions next, and we should have time to answer some.
Yes, definitely. And Alex, there are several questions, and I just want to reiterate to people, please do not put any personal information in the chat or in the Q&A section more specifically. We're going to try to generalize some of these responses and questions, just so we can make sure we're really able to help as many people as possible, as we cannot go through every question. We're seeing a lot of, I received an EIDL loan and PPP first round funds. Are people still eligible for this current round of EIDL? And is there a max amount of money people can take out?
So great question. The maximum amount that you can receive for an EIDL loan, which I mentioned currently, is $500,000. But when you couple that with other forms of assistance, it could have an effect on the amount that they receive, only if it's a duplication. And what I mean by that is, did they receive a Paycheck Protection Program loan, and did they use that money for the exact same purpose for the same period of time that they used the EIDL loan funds? So for example, if I'm using my Paycheck Protection Program loan money for payroll for the month of December in 2020, and I get an EIDL loan and I want to use it for the same month and year, then that's a duplication. But if I'm using one for, December, and then I use the other one for January, they're not duplicating, and it's fine to receive both. So I think the takeaway for businesses is to make sure that you do document, how you're using the funds, what the purpose was, just in case there ever is a reason, to ask, was there a duplication? How did you use them? You can clearly show, no, they were used for different expenses, different working capital needs.
Great. How do I find out the status of my EIDL loan?
So the loan portal, so if you're a borrower and you have a portal account, you should be able to go in there and check the status. If you have a more detailed question, you should email us at disastercustomerservice@sba.gov and ask your specific question, and the customer service team will identify which team is handling your application, because we do have several different teams. We have teams who are working on, reconsideration. So like if you're appealing a decision, maybe your original application was declined, or if you've requested an increase and we're working through that, that's another team. If your question is about the targeted advance, we'll make sure it gets routed to the right team and that they will get back to you. But just make sure you're clear in the email what your question is, and that you would like a response back from a loan officer or whoever is assigned to your case. And please provide any documentation or other pertinent information in your email to us that you think is relevant to your request, because the customer service agents can upload that to your file, and then it would be available to the other teams that are working it.
Do you mind repeating that email address one more time?
Absolutely. So it's disastercustomerservice@sba.gov.
Thank you. Is there forgiveness for EIDL? And if so, how does one apply for it?
So the EIDL loan program does have to be repaid. There is not forgiveness for that. And SBA does not have the statutory authority to forgive any EIDL loan amounts. And I'm really glad you asked this question, because I have seen different social media groups and so-called experts out there kind of giving their own opinions about what might happen based on the winds of change. And anybody who tells you that there's a high likelihood of this being forgiven, that's what you're doing is you're accepting a loan based on the terms that are being offered. Don't accept a loan with the anticipation that it might one day just be forgiven and be counting on that. We have to advise businesses to make smart business decisions, and you should always accept a loan based on the terms that are being offered. Now, if that eventually did happen, that would be great. I'm sure a lot of businesses would like that, but right now, that is not the way the program is currently structured. So the EIDL loan does have to be repaid. The advances do not.
And for the advances, since they do not have to be repaid, how does one apply for forgiveness?
So good news on the advances is you don't have to apply for forgiveness. It's not like the Paycheck Protection Program where you received your loan and then later on went through a separate process to request forgiveness. Instead, when you apply for the loan, you will then receive a second request to provide additional information for the advance. And then if you're approved, you'll receive your funds, and then there's nothing further that you have to do. You'll receive an email notice advising you that you've been approved, that the funds are being deposited into the bank account that you provided to us as part of the application. And once you get your funds, you're all done with the advance. There's nothing further that you have to do with that.
Well, that's good to know. I think there's a lot of people wondering that step right there. There's a lot of questions around this email, right? That happened back in February. There are people who mentioned like they did not understand an email they received from the SBA in February, and or they can't find it anymore to contact the SBA about their EIDL. What should they do, or who should they contact?
So at February 1st, we began sending invites to businesses who had already applied for EIDL assistance from the beginning of the program in 2020. Those invites, we only sent one to everybody, and it included a link to apply for the targeted EIDL advance. We're now sending reminder invites with a link to that application, and they should be receiving those in the next few days if they never did apply for the targeted advance and they can't find the original email any longer. If they can't find that email and they don't want to wait for the reminder message to come through, they can email us at disastercustomerservice@sba.gov and request that we resend to them the targeted advance application invite. And our team will send them a new email invite.
So disaster@customerservice@sba.gov, and they can then get the reminder email or the link to then take care of that. Got it.
Yeah, I'm going to give you another email address also, just in case, because I know a lot of the people out there who have applied for this, and they're aware of it. And so sometimes when I don't mention another email that they're aware of, they think, oh no, I've been emailing the wrong people. They can also email targetedadvance@sba.gov.
Got it. Targetedadvance@sba.gov. Got it. If I have less than desirable credit, would I be eligible for EIDL, whether that's advance or loan?
Yes. So we do use a minimum credit threshold to try and auto approve as many applications as we can. It helps us be, expedite the approval process. But if you're below that threshold, we can still approve you, but we're going to have to do it based on a cash flow analysis, just to show that the business can still afford to repay the loan. Otherwise, we're using the credit score for the repayment determination.
Got it. What are the eligibility requirements, since we're talking about that, for targeted EIDL?
So for the targeted EIDL advance program, and these are written into the Economic Aid Act, which is the December COVID relief bill, are first, the business has to be located in a low-income community. The Act gave us very specific instructions on how we can determine what's a low-income community. And so we're applying those, but it's based on US Census Tract data, and we have a mapping tool on our website that people can use. The second eligibility criteria is the business had to have suffered greater than 30% economic loss over a 2-month period after March 2020. And the way we calculate that is when they complete the application questions, they're going to be asked to provide gross monthly receipts for 2019 and 2020, and even through the months in 2021 that have been completed. Now, whenever somebody applies for the EIDL loan, we recommend that they use their 2019 federal tax return, so that way they can input what the gross receipts were and what the cost of goods sold were, because those are two questions in the loan application portion. And it's best if those are consistent with what they actually reported to the IRS, because later when we obtain tax records If there's a large discrepancy, it could cause delays in the processing, or it could even result in a decline. So in order to avoid the discrepancy and eliminate the possibility for a delay, please use your 2019 federal tax return when completing your loan application. And then the third criteria for the targeted EIDL advance are the number of employees. The business has to have 300 or less employees.
Great. Are there barriers that would prevent me as a small business owner from attaining a targeted EIDL advance?
So the biggest one that probably most people are aware of is the low income community eligibility requirement. And it, as I mentioned before, a lot of businesses aren't aware right now of, are they in or are they out based on the U.S. Census Tract data. It's not the kind of thing that's very obvious to people. You really have to go and look it up, and it's the kind of thing that changes with every type of survey that's done. But that is probably the biggest one. So that's why it's important for businesses to check that first. If you're in it, I strongly recommend, I can't emphasize this enough, go and apply for the EIDL loan, because you have a very good chance of obtaining, qualifying for the targeted EIDL advance, which, if you're a smaller business with 10 or less employees and you had greater than 50% economic loss and you're in that low income community, you could actually also get the supplemental, which means a total of $15,000 for your small business that you don't have to repay, which would be a tremendous help to small businesses right now, I know, who have emergency working capital needs.
Wow. And so make sure you're in a low income community designated area. And the way to check to make sure you do so, is there a website that someone can go to figure that out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we had the website at the bottom lower right-hand corner of the slides that I was going through. But if you go to sba.gov/targeted advance, there will be a link on that page to a policy map tool, and you click on that. It'll take you to a mapping tool. You enter in your business address, and then it will show you areas that are shaded in purple, which designate the low-income community areas, and all other areas are not. So another tip on that is when you go and look up your address, make sure you zoom in, because sometimes when you're zoomed out, depending on the device you're using, it may have a little bit of a optical illusion and may seem like you're in or seem like you're out. And it's just because the changes in the census tract are moving so much, and it's best to zoom all the way in just to make sure.
Awesome. We have one last question, which are, what are some best practices and recommendations to ensure that small business owners are able to obtain this advance?
So I mentioned one, which is using the 2019 federal tax return when you apply for the loan. The other one I'd say is take your time when you are completing the second set of questions for the targeted EIDL advance. When you have to enter, there's a series of yes or no questions at the beginning, which answering the wrong way on some of them could result in an automatic decline. And we've heard many cases of people going too fast and marking down that, yes, they're delinquent on child support more than 60 days. And then they didn't realize, how they answered it, or maybe they thought they unchecked it and it didn't actually do that. And then later when they get a decline decision, they're like, hey, wait a second, I don't even have any kids, or my kids are all grown, and they're very surprised by it. But those are the results of the answers that they put in there. So please take your time. Make sure you read the questions carefully. And then the last part is, again, use your tax records when you're entering in information about your gross receipts and stuff. Try to be as accurate as possible, because it will save time later on when the loan officers and groups are validating it. And then the last part is, we have to validate the information against the IRS records, but sometimes those are taking longer. So if you have your own copies of your IRS tax records, have those ready to send to us in case we don't get a response back from the IRS, a timely response. And, maybe we can move forward and expedite the assistance, because the ultimate goal here is we want to get the money out as quickly as possible. And we want to approve as many of these as possible. So, having, accurate information that you've already reported to the IRS and using that when you complete your application is always going to improve your chances.
Wow, thank you so much, Alex. Before we go, do you mind dropping those 2 email addresses again? Disaster. So if you're like me, you want to make sure you hear one last time to make sure you got it right.
Absolutely. So it's disaster customer service at sba.gov and targeted advance at sba.gov.
Great, thank you. And don't forget to go to sba.gov/targeted advance as well to check the tracker for you to figure out if you're in a low income community designated area, to make sure also that you check in the portal, check the status of your application there. And we just want to say thank you, Alex, so much for going over this information with us today.
Thank you.
Well, friends, we want to say thank you so much to Administrator Guzman, Dr. Choucair, to Xiling Tong of National ACE, to Tammy Halevi of Reimagine Main Street, to Sabrina Kent of NGLCC, to Romero Cavazos of USHCC, and to Ron Busby of USBC for speaking with us today. To Deidre and Alex, thank you as well. And to Rhonda, our ASL interpreter, we thank you so much for being here and speaking to us. If you have any additional questions, please feel free, if they are SBA related, to go to answerdesk@sba.gov. And if you have any questions and would like a copy of this webinar, please email us at events@public-private strategies. If you did not register for today's event, if you did, you will get this automatically in an email within the next 24 hours. Additionally, this is being live streamed to Facebook, so check out SBA Facebook page and you can see the recording of this at any time, as well as Public-Private Strategies Facebook page. Again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Our next webinar in the series of Getting Back on Track will take place next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So don't forget to register, and we will be hearing from great speakers as well and learning more information about services and economic relief that programs that the SBA provides. And with that, thank you all so much for joining us today.